What's up, friends? Modern Relics podcast. I'm Angel. He's Lucky. What's going on, man? How are you?
I am, you know,
Yeah,
if I was any better, I'd be two people.
I love it.
Yeah. It's about it. I'm only one,
Today.
and that's all I can do is just be one.
Yeah.
So, but I'm great. How about you? How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I've
Yeah.
kind of like the weather's been really strange where it's like 80 degrees, high winds, dark clouds, and then boom, 93 degrees, sunny, and then back to like it's kind of chugging along back and forth. But I'm doing okay. Work is the
Good.
usual amount of crazy, so all is normal in the world, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, the weather up here is actually, man, it just can't, we're doing the same thing, kind of schizophrenic weather
Yeah.
as North Idaho is known for, but like it'll drop down into the high 40s and then jump back up into the upper 70s within a matter of a day or two and sprinkle in different rain showers and clouds in between there, but we haven't quite gotten to the warm weather yet. I'm trying to force it. I'm wearing shorts every day and just trying to force it.
Do you think that's the motivation the weather needs to get warmer? Is like if we all wear shorts and like
and shaking my fist at the sky.
Yeah, that helps
think
too.
both of the so but outside of that, no, I'm doing pretty good.
Nice.
It was a busy work week. And I was at the shop till, pretty late almost every night, which is good. But yeah, it's been solid.
Nice.
How about you? You know what? I need to hear about the car show because this is something that kind of occupied a lot of space for you in the last couple of weeks,
Yeah.
getting prepped for it. This is something you hadn't done for 20 years. You'd kind of written it off. And so I've been anticipating, and I saw a few things on social media that kind of showed me that by what I could see through social media, that it was a far better experience for you, but I don't know the details. All I saw was some live streams and a couple of pictures and stuff. So fill me in. I want to know.
So we'll take the listeners back a little bit. Like one project that we had in first or second grade was to write ourselves a letter.
We're going that far back.
No, it had to be later than that. I think it was sixth grade, right before junior high. We had to write ourselves a letter, and then our teacher would mail that letter to our home address by the time we would be entering our senior year in high school. And then we could kind of learn about what we were like back then as kids, because we couldn't remember, which is kind of a fun exercise. And in that letter to myself, I talked almost exclusively about cars that I thought were cool and all that. So like it runs really deep. The love of cars and tuning and stuff is my point here. So let's fast forward 2000. When did Fast and the Furious come out? 2001, right?
I think so. Yeah.
So that explodes. Like everybody whose mom has a Honda Civic is now like into import car tuning and stuff like that. And that was sort of like the formative meet people, make friends years and stuff in my life. And it was all kind of centered around that. So 2000
was about the time I met you. That's where you were at. You guys were
like
car clubbing and
2005 rolls around, car clubs going to big events, and like the event to go to for, a sport compact tuned or import cars of any kind is Hot Import Nights. That's the one. Like they had a print magazine at one point. They had tons of vendors, and the vibe was like all the sickest builds that you could think of all usually crash down on one city. It's usually held in a big convention center. There's DJs, there's food vendors, there's car parts vendors, there's all kinds of stuff. There's pretty girls, there's everything a guy would want at an event like that. And I went to one in Seattle, took my dad around his birthday. We go out there. Long story, really short. It hadn't rained in Seattle in a long time. It was long before I moved there. And I'm on like 6th and Yesler, like entering a four-way stop. and it's dumping rain. The ground is really slick, and in slow motion, I pretty much like can't get traction and slide. And the choice is either slide to underneath a car that's at the bottom of a four-way stop that almost went through and then stopped, hand on the window and looked behind to see what the screeching noise was. And there's me in slow motion, like, just fucking go. So either I jump the curb into a tree and put my dad, who's in the car with me, in the tree, or I just take out this car. So I absolutely total my car at this event. It's brutal. And I'm just like, I'm not really going to do these big city events. So one of my buddies, who got out of the army a couple of years back, has been dealing with some long-term, like recovery from severe physical injuries while he was over there. And he also has the exact same car that I do. It's just one generation older. And he's getting on new medications. He's feeling better. Slowly, we're not using a cane as much. And he's like, man, it's cool. I can drive a stick shift again without like excruciating pain. You've been putting a lot of work into your car. It's inspiring me. I really want to get back into it. So I think, well, let's put a goal on it, man. So like 5 months ago, I'm like, dude, Hot Import Nights is coming to our town. What do you think? Like, why don't we get our cars ready to do that and see what that's like? I haven't been in 20 years for obvious reasons, but he agrees. Anyway, he can't make it. Stuff comes up. So it's just me.
Really?
I'm super bummed.
No.
I'm like, nah, I got to do this shit by myself. This sucks. Because if you bring cameras, you can't really like leave your little area because you don't want people to steal your shit. Right. And I'm like, man, this sucks. So I got to like pack up and lug around every time I need to go use the bathroom or something like that. So I get these tickets. I know that simultaneous to this, there's going to be an outdoor car event, and there's going to be like in the same park, a Filipino cultural event, which I think bitchin'. There's going to be lumpias and skewers and a bunch of cool stuff and vendors everywhere. And I'm getting really hyped. So I put a ton of time and effort into the car. I've never entered one of my own vehicles into a car show, by the way. I have gone to hundreds of them as a spectator. I've gone to things that I've been invited to, stuff like that. Never have I ever put my own vehicle on one of these. So I get there, I show up at the park, no signage, no exhibitors rolling here, vendors rolling there, nothing. Driving all over the park, no entry. Finally see like they've opened up this little walkway where it's like basically the width of a sidewalk, but it's so steep that you're going to lose the front bumper going into it. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to drive into the driveway, drive down the sidewalk, and then across so I don't have to do that big steep thing. Make it through. They're like, yeah, just park wherever. Okay.
Just wherever?
Just wherever's cool. Like, so now I'm on the grass at the end of a line of cars, kind of toward the back. Nobody's paying to get in. Cars are just coming off the street to just park wherever they want. So about an hour goes by and they're like, well, if you registered to be in the event, you have to go check in at registration here in about 15 or 20 minutes. And I'm like, oh, cool. So they are checking tickets at the door. Because this was like a $45 thing, right? And the worst part was they filtered who got to go into this event. You had to send them photos of your car, mod lists you've done, anything you represent, sponsors you have, things you'd expect from a massive car show, or at least what it used to be 20 years ago. So I go get checked in. I get my complimentary t-shirt. It says bumper to bumper on it, not Hot Import Nights. I'm like, so is this the same show? And they're like, yeah. Basically, we just paid to have the rights to put Hot Import Nights logo on this particular event because we're in partnership with. I was like, oh no. It turned out to basically be, after about an hour, smaller than our local cars and coffee event that we do on Sundays at the donut shop. You know what I mean? Where I'm just like,
yeah. Now
there were some sweet cars there. There was like, you know, a couple of Lamborghinis and cool stuff like that. But mind you, the Filipino cultural event has like an entire carnival of suppliers and food vendors and stuff. And they have a
way more organized,
jam-packed agenda. So we're the afterthought car show that's kind of sprinkled behind the main stage. And these folks were not off the microphone 1 second the entire 10 and a half hours I was in that park. I thought, are they doing a radio show as well? Like the assistant mayor stopped by to say hi. They thanked all their sponsors. They did a beauty pageant. And the best part was that it's black cloud cover threatening rain the whole time. And the winds are like 40 to 50 mile an hour intermittent gusts. So these poor girls, they're doing like a beauty pageant. Old girl had like this gown on and really long hair that's like just blowing away, where she's like, she can't see. No one's having a good time over there. And I met a couple of dudes that were really fun to talk to, but it was like, man, this has changed. Because in your mind, you think about what it was 20 years ago, and not just because my mentality was different, like it was all new and fresh. There's some of that in there, but like that was the fucking spot to go worldwide for events. For that was like Hot Import Nights was it. And I think it's just changed. Like it's, the hype is not what it was anymore. Things are just different. Car shows aren't the same.
It's just evolved more into the club scene rather than the show scene.
So the award you mentioned, yeah, it was funny because there were no categorical things to enter. It was just like, you're here, you're an exhibitor, and you're on a showcase spot. And my spot was wherever the hell you want, park on the grass, not Hall A, Hall B, like I thought it would be. You know what I mean? So
yeah, or categorized into different kind of. Yeah, wow.
So like they're giving out awards for like best lady driven sports car. Like we didn't put our sex on the entry fee at all, like even for registration. So like, how would you know that unless you know the people that are, unless you know these cars, you know what I mean?
They assumed your gender.
Yeah, exactly.
Dirty.
It was weird categories that are just like, really? Like what? Like best European four-door post year 2000. Like, what is that? You guys are just making shit up. Anyway, I ended up winning third best Nissan. There were only 3 there. So, no, I'm just kidding. There were more than 3.
Oh, okay.
That would have been hilarious though. Like let's just give that dude a trophy because he showed up, which is kind of what they did. But it's, look, I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. Like when you win something, there's a sense of magic to that. Like, I wasn't expecting that. A gift. This is cool. I have a little acrylic trophy over here. It lights up when you plug it in. It's like an Amazon trophy thing. And they printed and taped out third best Nissan and whatever. But yeah, it was like GTR, me, and then a million other Nissans that were there as well. But none of the events took place except for 2, of which 3 of the cars there actually participated in. There were no vendors on our side of the house at all. There was a couple of off-road trucks that were there, but the local car club, the Vegas Elites, and they have insane cars in this, like Ferraris, Lamborghinis, GTRs. Like they swept every fucking award that was given out at this thing.
Wow.
Like, this is not what I remember at all. Like it was fun and I got out of the house, but I got to put up with high wind all day long in a little tent that I had staked down with a couple of bags in it. And I'm just like getting blown away, like trying to intermittently go with some social media posts. And I ended up cobbling together a YouTube video out of it. Couldn't fly my drone. Like the wind was that bad. It was just like, oh. So I think I'll continue to do car shows. I just don't think I'm going to enter my car in it because that was a lot of effort for not much. You know what I mean?
Aren't you like smack dab in the middle of like desert, Vegas area windy season?
So the wind is kind of like at its worst, I think, in February to April. Usually by May, it's like now we're getting hot and things are kind of staling off. But it had one last haymaker to throw at us, and it was that day.
Yeah, I guess you're right in that window between like surface of the sun heat that nobody wants to be in and monsoon season.
Right, and
so
I said that in the video too. I was like, I don't know what's worse, like the level of heat that we contend with this time of year, or the fact that it's like threatening rain, it's electrostatic in the air, black clouds and high winds, like. Because people are like, oh, what's it like down there in the summer? It's like, well, have you ever been cremated before? It's kind of like that. But it wasn't like overtly disgustingly hot. So in that I rejoiced, but it was a ton of work preparing for something that I remember being like the Mecca event. And I'm like, this is nerve wracking because, I'm putting my car in, which I don't think looks like much. It's just done really, really well for the basic things that I have done to it. So I won third best Nissan. So, hey, there you go. I now have an award-winning car that like probably 50 people saw. So like, I mean, I was expecting, photo shoots, models,
Well,
club
you
vibes,
started.
all that stuff.
I could hear the. Uh,
Filipino cultural event.
no, no, no.
Oh.
Did you get lupias while you were there?
No, dude,
Uh,
that pissed me off. I
what?
walked around. So their vendors, by the way, here's the rant real quick. Their vendors included the U.S. Marines, Anderson window glass, some Mrs. Chow's beauty pageant supplies, those old photo vendors that you used to walk in the mall where they would do those like laser lights behind your
Oh, yeah.
photo, the glamour shots and stuff. And their food vendors, they wanted like $20 a skewer. $20. I was like, dude,
What?
what is that? Like, no way, man.
For Vietnamese street food?
Yeah, I was like, bro, I could order a fucking pizza, probably have it delivered to the park for close to that. Not really, but
Yeah.
a slice maybe. But yeah, it was brutal. I was just like, oh, I'm not gonna.
I sensed a little hesitation early on with you when you mentioned that it wasn't going to be downtown where it normally is, inside buildings and such, and that it was going to be at this park.
Well,
And
so,
you're like, that's a little odd, but we'll see how it goes.
yeah,
And
Craig Ranch Park is known for like massive car events and stuff, like by other like promoters and things like that. I just don't do it because, and this was no exception. When you commit to that stuff, you are there until it's over. Like you have to be the first one in, set up, clean everything. Then the show opens for the public. Then they have to close and kick a bunch of drunk people out, and then you get to go home. So you're committed to like sometimes
I'm no stranger to vendor stuff.
right,
like, that,
10 hours to 2 days. Like if you're in here, you cannot leave with this car. And so I'd never go to those things because it's like it's a fucking madhouse, right? And I'm like, But I was like, okay, well, Craig Ranch, God, in May, like, all right, we'll get a pop-up tent, get some SPF Irish Kid, that's the strength that's needed when you, like, I had a paintbrush, like, no, son, but we survived. But yeah, dude, it just got really weird. And then when you get there and you're like, oh man, like this is a ghost of its former self. Like, yeah, I did have fun. I got a trophy. I had some good laughs. There were some sick cars there. And, I saw 40 people, 50 people. I met maybe 2 or 3. I wasn't stuck in the house all day. It was a fun Saturday all in, but it was not at all what it used to be. So
yeah,
that was my big leading up to this last weekend. Yeah.
That's pretty much the same experience I had at the last tattoo convention I went to as well. So like,
yeah,
the place was beautiful. I got to be in the pool, got to see a couple of people, but overall it was like,
yeah. You're like, I could have seen a new movie, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you got an award. I'm glad you had a good time. I'm glad you got out of the house. But yeah.
Hey, look, man, my car is the cleanest it's ever been right now. So there you go.
There it is. Real quick, as my hat would suggest, also for your neck of the woods, our Golden Knights have been eliminated from the series. The Oilers took them out pretty handily. They accidentally won 1 game of the series, and then the other 4 were taken pretty. And I don't know. I was pretty bummed because they were a strong contender and they were going real hard through the season. And it just felt like they didn't have the heart. And as Shorzy says, they just didn't hate to lose enough, and you could feel it. And so I was pretty bummed about that. That happened this week.
Which is wild because we went to a game this year earlier in the season, and we saw the Silver Knights play the junior team and the Golden Knights, and they both won. But it was like a pretty dominant by the middle of the
Yeah.
second period, things were kind of well in hand. At least that's how it felt. So that's unfortunate
No.
to hear.
And hockey can flip over pretty quickly,
Yeah.
but yeah, I was watching a totally different team when from the previous set of playoff games, the previous 7 set, where they just pretty much dominated and played so aggressively. And this one, they just weren't playing aggressively, and you could tell. Like there's a good passing game, and then there's a hot potato game, and that's what they were playing in this second series, and it wasn't good. And we watched every period of that whole series, and it was like consistently bad. They were consistently not passing for the sake of aggressing towards the goal. They were passing basically to get rid of the puck, and you felt it in them. And it was pretty heartbreaking to watch, but there's always next year.
My beloved Golden State Warriors got knocked out in round 2 as well. Like Steph Curry goes out with a hamstring, and you're like, we didn't have enough to make it to the NBA Finals to start this season, and we're kind of fighting for pride here. But when Steph goes down, you're kind of like, man, I think their window's closed. You know what I mean? Like it fell apart. So that always sucks. I was a little heartbroken a couple weeks ago for other reasons, but yeah.
Yeah, and then but at least the Simpsons, we've proven that the Simpsons can't predict everything, because they predicted that the Toronto Maple Leafs would be winning the Stanley Cup this year, and they just got eliminated by the Panthers, Florida, who won the Stanley Cup last year. So, but it came down to Game 7 on them too, and it was tight. And but yeah, they lost. So the Simpsons were wrong for once in predicting stuff. Have they
been historically accurate with their predictions, or what?
Yeah, eerily for decades. Everything from not just minor stuff like hockey stuff. I'm talking big political world events.
Interesting.
Where they seem like there's we'll look it up. Maybe we'll do an episode on it, on all of the things that the Simpsons have predicted that have come true, because it's actually kind of creepy and feels scripted.
Yeah.
Once you realize it, you're like, oh, how did we all thought that was just
life is somehow imitating art.
Yeah. So, one of the other things that we did watch this week, though, and we watched it at the shop, we had it up on the TV for everybody because it was on ESPN, and my niece Olivia, who is in her senior year, finishing up her senior year in Ogden, Utah for, oh man, I always forget the name of the school. Weber State.
The Fighting Newts.
Yeah. So no, not the Fighting Newts, the Wildcats.
Okay, Wildcats.
Yeah. But senior year, she's my eldest sister, Jackie. It is her daughter, Olivia. Yeah. And Jackie travels with her and has for years, because her daughter is such a monster softball player. We watched their first tournament, which they absolutely crushed their first tournament, and it was amazing to watch. And Olivia is their number 5 batter. Has 14 home runs this season. Jeez. Yeah, she's killing it. She's a clutch hitter. Anytime that they need points on the board, she's the one that they go to for it.
I've hit 0 home runs in my life. I don't think I could hit a home run off a tee.
Yeah, but yeah, this girl, she's been fantastic to watch. And this year, they won their regionals, and then they went off and they went to Oregon, and they were doing a tournament out in Oregon. And I think there was one more bigger regional before they went to the World Series, but unfortunately they got eliminated in this particular one. But by the Oregon Ducks, they lost to them twice. And so but it was a great series to watch. It was really fun to watch as the shop all cheering for my niece on TV, and even clients who are getting tattooed or all cued in, and everyone's all getting excited. And she did, in one of the final games, she did pop out 3-run blast that she just crushed into the left field, and so drove in the RBIs to win that one game. But then the following game, they couldn't quite. Couldn't quite get the points on the board that they needed. They, leaving a lot of people on base, and it was a rough go for that last game. But it is what it is. I don't know. I haven't talked to my sister, but I'm hoping that's not Olivia's last game ever.
Yeah.
As far as collegiate or semi-professional or travel ball play, something that maybe. But hopefully, she cracked a bunch of records for the school, stuff like that. She did awesome. So shout out to Olivia and my sister Jackie. It was fun watching you guys. So, but
nice.
Outside of that, you know what today is?
Today is May 20th. Today's voting day.
It is voting day.
Yeah.
It is voting day. So that's where my wife currently is. Oh, you guys don't have a
We're not allowed.
Yeah.
No.
So we have small stuff. This is like regional voting stuff. So county level stuff. Nothing on a state level. Nothing on a federal level. It's just county stuff. And today, that's where my wife is. She got polled. Normally she watches on election day at the elections office and is a certified watcher to make sure, a witness of sorts. And
does she get a hat and aviator shades for that title? Certified watcher?
She should. Yeah. But maybe I'll order her some, and
we need it.
That could be a new costume. But she actually went and got pole training. So now my wife's working the pole.
Okay.
Yeah. She's down there with a bunch of friends, and she's at the fairgrounds, and she's a pole watcher or a pole helper. She's been down there all day, and she'll be there probably till 8:00 tonight. They're having the lowest attendance according to all my feeds. The lowest attendance of any election in years. Not really a lot on the ballot this year. There's the hottest one right now, the hottest topic on our local stuff is our library board. There's a lady who is running named Victoria Bauman, who is fantastic. And if you're local and you're listening, she's who you should vote for. You have till 8:00 tonight. Vote for Victoria Bauman. She's a wonderful woman and has all of the proper check marks to do that job properly. And she's going up against Michelle Lippert, who is has become a Republican about 25 minutes ago.
Oh, interesting.
So her whole life, she ran as a Democrat for our legislature. She's been a lifelong Democrat, but when she went to go run for this position, which they crow on and on and on about it being a nonpartisan position, but apparently it mattered to her enough to change parties in order to see if she could try to pull one off on people. But and outside of that, we've got a water district thing, and now our local GOP typically has a handle on things, or the KCRCC. I am famous for not seeing eye to eye on them on particular issues, especially when it comes to like the Groyper stuff and all that. But I also just think procedurally they do certain things that I would do differently. 90% of the time I agree with the picks that they pick. There are times that I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Like, why did you pick this person? I also think that they could vet a little better in their rating and vetting system. Rating is one thing. Sure, we like you, but vetting is a different situation. You need to do a better job. And I just don't think that they have the right people there who understand how vetting works and how it works in a modern era as opposed to how it used to work when they were younger. So, and so we have a particular guy in town who's a known favorite. His name's Angelo. He owns Angelo's Restaurant, one of the finest Italian restaurants in the area. He's a Catholic guy who's a family man, all sorts of things. Like, he's just a pillar. Everyone knows who Angelo is, and he's fantastic. Well, he got talked into running for this water board thing for whatever reason, and he has no idea what the job even entails or
Do
anything.
you have
but he
any
just
experience in waterboarding? It doesn't sound like it.
No,
Okay.
no experience in waterboarding.
Interesting.
But he, they kind of propped him up because they kind of want to fill all the seats with their guys.
Right.
And I get that strategy to a degree, except for the fact that it really looks bad on the organization when you put somebody in there and they don't know what they're doing, and it all comes crumbling down because the person is just not competent in that field.
Right.
Now, the lady who's running, or the lady who's already been there, and she's fantastic. She's been there for 9 years, and they didn't really paint her as a rhino because we have the North Idaho Republican Rhino group as opposed to the KCRCC Real Republicans, which is confusing, but she's not part of NIR. She's not a Democrat. She's not, like, she's actually a pretty strong conservative. But for some reason, even though she's been doing the job for 9 years and well, they decided they wanted to fill her seat with one of their guys. And that to me reeks of control. That to me reeks of, well, he'll just do what we want him to do. She's
Naturally,
not controlling, you know? And so I honestly, if anyone's listening, vote for the other lady. Do not vote for Angelo. So, and I'm blanking on her name, but she's the incumbent. So it'll say on the ticket, but she's fantastic. And outside of that, we've got a fire bond bill and some, like, I think, hospital board bills, but the hospital board doesn't even really matter because it's ceremonial. It doesn't, like, they voted themselves out of being voted on. Like, they don't even get, they have zero real power. So it didn't really matter. But there's a couple, people are really, the hot ticket is the library board. And so Victoria Bowman is hopefully gonna pick that one up tonight. We'll see, probably about 9:00 tonight. I can't imagine the 1,000 votes that they get in this area, which is what the turnout is looking like, is really going to take a whole long time to count. So it won't be till tomorrow morning. So we'll probably find out tonight. But that's basically what's going on. That's where my wife is. Actually, both my kids are at work. Oliver got a job.
Wow.
Besides at the shop, he got a job at Silverwood.
Nice.
So he is actually a ride operator up there now. So he's putting people on roller coasters and shipping them off. So,
Making sure the seatbelts are fastened.
Yep, and
Incredible.
pushing buttons. So yeah, but outside of that, that's pretty much all I've got for voting day. It's kind of a light one. So, but if it's happening, I thought I should talk about it. And there's
Totally.
people
I mean, most of ours, I joke around, but most of ours has already been accomplished at the local level. There's a couple of terms expiring end of this year for stuff. The waterboarding professionals for our board, that's a very contentious topic because it's a fucking critical resource for us, right? So that always gets some hype there. But yeah, I'm looking into the summer schedule for our city hall stuff and town hall stuff. So I want to find out kind of what some of the docket items are, because principally there's a lot of construction going on that's borderline egregious for the area that I live, because we just don't have the infrastructure to support all this net newness coming in, plus the water as well. So, these are big and important, and I do think they're worth talking about, because while national politics drives the attention, the change that happens in your community is local, and that's where you should be spending all your time.
Yes.
So I think it's good to know. So she's polls will then close at 8 p.m. you said, and then they'll tally her up and probably have an answer by hopefully 9ish, and you'll find out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but that's,
if you find someone you like, we'll put a congrats out on social media or something if they make it through. So
Which, by the way, now that you brought up social media,
Yeah.
everyone who's watching, guess what? I am now 100% on the Facebook and on the X page. So I will answer all of your questions. Follow us on all platforms, whether it be YouTube or Spotify or iHeartRadio, or are we
Nice.
on Apple as well? Apple Music?
We're there.
Okay.
We're there.
And then on socials, go to Facebook. You'll get updates. I'll be far more frequently updating these things every day or thereabouts, and Twitter as well, or X. And those are now going to be far more active. So start following us. You'll be able to see updates and all that stuff, because now it's on my phone rather than on just this computer,
Nice.
which I only touch when I'm in this room. So it became a ghost to me outside of that. So now that it's on my phone, I can actually engage with you guys. If you have questions, if you have topics you want us to talk about, throw them there. Throw them at Twitter. Throw them at Facebook, and I'll be there to answer all that stuff. So
yeah, I mean, you can also get to us modern relics podcast at gmail.com as well. So drop us a line if you're into all that, which we love.
Yeah.
Let's see here. So we got a couple hitters today. We've got some conspiracy corner stuff. We got some Joe Biden stuff. And then we've got some Golden Dome stuff. Where do you want to merge onto the information superhighway? Hello, Cynthiana, by the way, good to see you.
You know what? I'm always down for a good conspiracy.
Okay. Is it time?
But I need the proper attire.
I think it's time.
So
you're all watching. We got to crunch down our tinfoil hats pretty tightly for these things.
Yep. All right.
There we go. So I'm ready.
God, I'm so jealous of your hat. It's so beautiful. So all right. So Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, now head of the FBI. Both these guys are well-known, heavy. Yep. Mm-hmm. These are guys that we wanted. These are guys that we put, on our lists of people that we wanted to be within the cabinet, and there was a lot of big promises that were coming out of these guys, and we really wanted these guys. Mm-hmm. We trust them. Like, I've been super, super happy with their performances thus far.
They haven't given us reasons not to trust them yet, we'll say.
Right, exactly. So, that being said, they go and do an interview with Maria Bartonello, or however you pronounce her last name, right?
Yeah, sorry, Maria. I don't know how to pronounce it either.
So, she starts throwing them questions. And she comes out of the gate with the Epstein stuff. And says, you've seen these files now. Like, what's the deal? Like, we want the truth of the Epstein stuff. And not to get into the weeds of the lists and the island stuff and all of that, because that's a totally different topic. Specifically about the thing that we have been chanting for 4 years now, people making t-shirts, everything about Epstein didn't kill himself. Right. They make memes about it. They make everything about it. It's been kind of just the going narrative for anyone, right of Stalin, all believe that this guy did not kill himself, right?
Yeah.
So, and what we're dealing with right now is two gentlemen that we trust sitting in front of the camera, looking into the camera, going, we've seen the files.
Right.
He killed himself. And this was a suicide. And now everyone's kind of like pausing and taken aback. They don't know really how to process that. They don't know how to look at it in any other angle other than the fact that this guy was taken out to keep him quiet.
Yeah.
And
got to be a deep fake, right?
Well, all of the evidence pointed to it, and there was even an autopsy that pointed to it. There was video of him being, taken out on the gurneys that
Mm-hmm.
people were pointing at, going, "That doesn't look like him, and this is wrong, and this and that." There's speculation that he never died and that he's been living secretly somewhere else, that he was killed to keep him quiet. There's all sorts of speculation, but nobody knows the truth. Nobody knows the truth. And what I saw from that video is two men who knew very well that saying what they said was going to be very unpopular with their base.
Mm-hmm.
You could tell by their demeanor. They were just like, man, people are not going to like to hear this.
Well, even culturally, none of us want to believe that because there's no real motive other than a shockingly swift, sudden change of heart being filled with morality and the fact that he just can't contend with what presumably his sadness around how he was involved in sex trafficking and things of that nature, or
Right.
that maybe he would be terrified of what life in prison behind bars might look like if he was convicted in trial, or that what they drug his pristine name around. He didn't have a pristine name. So I don't think a lot of folks that didn't have all the right pieces, including myself, really wanted to hear that. We're like, no way.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, I think it's also kind of a shocking misconception of what we thought they would say almost instantly. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like, yeah, it doesn't surprise me, but upsetting their base, it doesn't seem like it's that politically motivating to say one thing or the other,
Right.
in my opinion. But
because I mean, when you're in the circles, as I am, the deep dive on it is basically like he hung himself from a height that was impossible. He had broken bones in different parts of his body that did not correlate with a hanging at all. The cameras went out. The guards fell asleep. All of these things all being tied in kind of more than suggested that this was not a desperate man who did not want to go to prison or have his reputation sullied or whatever, right? So that's, I think, why it's a harder pill for people to swallow when the two guys in charge of looking at these documents came out and said,
no, I get it.
And so
he didn't strike me as a guy that cared that hard about a sterling reputation because he didn't have one to begin with. So that's the part that's a bit puzzling, but yeah.
Well, and so here's the three options. Either one, the man killed himself.
Sure.
Like they're reporting. B, he did it, or he died, did not kill himself, but he died. And these two men who we've trusted are now bought and are lying about it. Or C, and this is a conversation I heard about this, but of course it feels a little hopium to me, but that the option C is that they are lying, but they have a good motivation for lying. And it's basically to build trust on the left end of the spectrum, the left side of things, to build trust over there, to say that they're even-handed. So when they do start coming down with indictments, when they do start coming down with arrests, when they do start doing that, it doesn't feel like they're just conspiratorial nut jobs that are out there just throwing all of the wish list of the right into prison, right? That it gives them credibility to kind of go, he killed himself. Anyway, let's get on to real work. We have some people to arrest that broke the law. And
it doesn't sound too like unreasonable what you're saying, but it does feel far-fetched.
Yeah.
Options.
It doesn't sound unreasonable, but it also feels like hopium at the same time.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And so I don't know. I'm curious as to what because they said in the next 2 weeks things are going to get rowdy, and that's in other arenas. So we're going to start seeing things that they're like, yeah, we have a whole bunch of stuff coming out, and it's going to be crazy, and just give us a little time. And that's another thing that, they said is like, hey, look, we've only been in office for 2 months.
Mhm.
Like, we have to build the cases correctly. We can't just go in there and start swinging axes and putting everybody in cuffs and then worry about like all the legalities later.
The kill them all, let God sort them out approach is not good.
We got to cross our T's and dot our I's, and we've got a lot of people who have built up 4 years of frustration are being pretty impatient with the process. And I know they're like, screw the process. Let's set things right. Let's let's put the bad guys away so the good guys can do some work. And I get that sentiment. I get it. However, do you want it to stick?
Right.
Do you want it to stick? Because it's not going to stick otherwise. And it's also going to put a question mark on if you did it legally. It's going to put a question mark if you did the moral thing properly. And so I would prefer that we take our time, do things right, pace it out, and make it correct rather than retribution and revenge. Make it correct.
Yeah.
And that's where you get a lot of the people who are struggling with that is they're struggling with the patience of the situation. The amount of fire hose information that's probably being shot at every new member of this cabinet who's going, wow, this is so deep, where it's like going into a hoarder's house and trying to figure out where to start.
Yeah.
And
I mean, Doge said that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that original panel, I don't remember who they were talking to. I feel like it was a CNN thing. It could have been a Fox thing, but they were all just kind of sitting there like,
yeah,
like it's unimaginable the wires we have to untangle with what we're finding. Like, yeah, unimaginable. And these are like pretty bright dudes. So I guess, I mean, while the tinfoil's good and tight, I mean, once the hats are off, things go back to normal. But like, what do you want the truth to be? Like,
what do I want the truth to be?
While we're in conspiracy corner, I mean,
if I'm going full blown conspiracy, I want him to still be alive.
I want him to be alive. What I was going to say. That was my answer. I want him to just pop up at the local grocery and be like, "Oh shit." And like
they got me, and then like have a perp walk with Jeffrey Epstein. Oh, dude, yeah. And then like watch him cry and spill the beans on all these celebrities, and it would be wonderful.
Just get blurry Sasquatch photo sightings of Jeffrey Epstein like cruising in and out of Walmart or something. Like, what is that, Jeff Epstein?
And like some small town in the middle of the southern
Kansas
Midwest
or somewhere. Sure,
yeah. No, he's not in the continental United States. They got him somewhere else. So, but no, that's what I would wish. I would hope for that. Yeah. Realistically, I think he's dead. I think that he would be too much of a liability if he was still alive. I think that.
But I think that's the answer for me. Like, if he killed himself, it's because someone was gonna. And that must have been the tipping point for reasons that remain unclear and probably will forever. If they're telling the truth and they haven't given us a reason not to, and it's like, yeah, no, he totally did. Like, and we're going to say that to give you a primer on buckle up for the next 2 weeks or whatever, which I find far more fascinating. It is nice to have a little closure in that. And I assume that would be the motive. Like, realistically speaking, is like, okay, he probably figures somebody else will, just based on the amount of influence and connective tissue there was to a ton of really important people. Right. Which is still disgusting.
And and so that's where I'm at with that. I can't wait to see what comes out in the next couple of weeks. Maybe we get more. Now, it is coinciding at the same time with James O'Keefe like releasing all these weird videos
Yeah.
of inside the island house on, you know, Epstein's Island. And I don't know if anybody's gleaning any information from that outside of it just being like a home tour. You
Yeah.
know, I haven't seen anything else come out. Nothing popping out of that seemed weird or odd. So I don't know.
Have you seen, while the hats are still on, have you seen Diddy, like how he looks pre-trial right now versus how he looked when he got arrested?
No.
Dude, my man looks like he aged 25 years, for one. For two, he looks a couple quarts low on baby oil, for what it's worth. Like, he looks rough, dude. It's like, ooh, is that the same guy? That is the same guy, but jeez. So, and that's another thing for those that are like, that didn't look like Jeff Epstein getting pushed out of there on a gurney. It's like, well, maybe he ultra aged like everyone else does when they go inside. I don't know. Or
they stopped getting their adrenochrome.
Yeah, they stopped drinking human souls on the outside because they didn't have access to it.
Yeah.
Fucking vampires.
But yeah, so that's the tinfoil for today.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, this is a segment I want to keep doing every week.
Yeah.
So for those listening, send us ideas.
Yeah.
If you have an interesting conspiracy theory that you want us to explore, send it to us via email, send it to us via Twitter or Facebook, and I will pick one for that week and we will go and we'll explore. We'll put our hats on. Yeah.
We'll tighten down the tinfoil and we'll get after it. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah. I think I might have to upgrade my hat though. Yeah. Yours is making me jealous.
It's cool because on the back it actually says conspiracy if I did want
to. I love this hat.
And I just have the C on the front. I know my camera's inverted so it looks backwards, but
it's not inverted.
Oh, it's not.
Inverted
okay.
To you.
It just is to me. Good. That's good news.
Yeah. Same with mine. Mine is inverted to me.
Yeah.
But you see it, it's regular. And then when it streams, they're both regular.
Good deal.
Yeah. So
I know technology things.
Yeah, this is the guy running our show, folks.
Yeah, we fired our tech support, so we got to get more tech support people. I'm telling you, it's all up to me. It's going to hell in a handbasket. Well, that was Conspiracy Corner.
Yeah. I'm excited to explore some more of that later on. But in the meantime,
I am not used to having short hair, dude. Oh my God.
That's the shortest I've ever seen your hair, by the way.
Yeah. It's all gone. It's all gone. So following
Biden's got
suit,
cancer?
What's that?
So Biden's got cancer.
Yeah, following suit. This is okay. This is wild. So this comes out as if it's coming down with the chicken pox, this explosively crazy prostate cancer that's weaseled its way into all parts of his body and all the things that, and it's like, I'm not going to make light of that. That's a serious fucking deal. What I am going to take issue with is the amount of media spoon feeding us. He's fine. He's the sharpest we've ever seen him in 100 years. And he's
the
400 years old.
Gaslighting in history.
Yeah.
The worst gaslighting in known media history.
And it's so obvious that it's like, this guy is struggling to stand up. This guy's struggling to remain coherent. Like, there's been some rumors, which I know the hats are off now, but I would 100% buy into, of them pretty much feeding this guy a cocktail of, stimulants and stuff when he has media presence, like media press events. I can't speak.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And it's like, well, like, I'm not going to begrudge the guy having an illness. That sucks. And heart goes out to his family and stuff and himself. But like, what the fuck, you guys? Like, I mean,
yeah,
you drew us and quartered us and called us pariahs for pointing out the fact that the leader of the free world for several years didn't seem like he knew his ass from a hole in the ground in front of a microphone and a camera. And then a lot of the media stuff just slowly just stopped. Like, and he just stopped appearing for stuff. And it's like, where's Joe Biden and all of this? So I took kind of offense to that. I mean, I don't know where you're going
Yeah.
to go with the story, but that's my initial reaction is like, what the hell? You know,
Well,
like in the implications of how bad was this for how long and who was running the country, I think is the next topic to discuss, but
yeah.
I'll give you the
But
wheel. Like, what do you think?
well, just starting off, the amount of time it takes for this type of prostate cancer to metastasize to bones.
Yeah.
Dr. Drew, who is going through the same cancer treatment right now because he has prostate cancer, and he actually spoke about this, and he goes, "This doesn't make sense
Yeah.
because it's a slow moving cancer and it takes years."
Mm-hmm.
So they knew. And there's now talk saying that they knew prior to him even running originally.
They had to have.
Yeah, back in 2018, 2017, they already knew that he had this. And they ran him anyway, and they lied to the public about it. And because they hated Trump that much that they had no one else on deck, that this was the only option that they had, and they were hoping that they could just hide it, which all of his cognitive attrition, basically all of his cognitive slipping and even his physical slipping can be attributed to the types of medications that they put this type of cancer patient on.
Yeah.
And so all of it makes sense now. All of it makes sense that they did this. The only thing that really irritates me is that they decided to tell everybody right before indictments started going out, right before there was a bunch of news about to drop on them the next day.
It's unimaginable that someone in such a condition could stand trial, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, and then right before Jake Tapper's book came out, which I think came out today or tomorrow, I think it's today, and it was the tell-all about, and so it's chock full of lies, and so who knows now, like, but what this does put into, because of all these things and what's going to end up coming out from all of this, is now it puts into question all of every executive order he put down and whether or not he was cognitively available for those type of decision making, but also all of the pardons that he did for his family and for Fauci and everybody else, which were all auto-penned. And now everyone's
we covered that on
questioning-
this pod. That is a wild amount of pardons.
Yeah, and also the auto-pen situation, they know that he had nothing to do with it. So now the question is, who was actually running the country behind the scenes? Who was the person who was actually making decisions, and then they were propping him up,
right?
Like those old West towns that had the fake fronts on it, and there was actually
false fronts and marionette wires.
Yep. And that's what we had for 4 years. And a lot of us knew that, but now we're getting substantial proof to say that that was the case. That
was my point, is like, how far back did this go? And like, what was really going on as far as the decision making is, particularly when Joe Biden just was 404 Joe Biden not found, you know?
Right.
Like, especially toward the end there.
How about the Afghanistan, retreat?
Oh yeah.
How about that? Who was actually responsible for that now? Like, we need to know how far back this goes, who was actually pulling the strings, who was the one actually making these decisions, because it obviously wasn't him. And it can be proven through medication and through doctors going, he was so, and it also puts into question his doctor, who kept coming out saying, "Oh no, he's fine.
Yeah, everything. You guys
He's
are
fine.
crazy. He's fine."
Yeah.
You're just not seeing it correctly. My hope is yes, but do you think that a lot of this is going to come out with these boiling hot buckle ups from Kash Patel and the FBI at this point?
I kind of hope so. I hope that that's what we're going to be getting in the next month or so, is a lot of, because I feel as if they are getting all their ducks in a row, and it's not just him, it's Tulsi, it's, everybody else. They're getting their ducks in a row right now to start throwing the nets. But everyone wants them throwing nets right now, and they're not ready. They're not prepared. They've got to make sure that when you're throwing nets, there aren't any holes in those nets, and
isn't it funny how the free world will crucify the Trump administration for this, even if they have all the right ducks in all the right rows. And it was only months earlier that we were shouting crucify him when Trump was on some charges in a New York district judge that was just throwing the book at left, right, and center on trying to get this man thrown behind bars. And they're like, no, this isn't a political hit. This,
for laws that did not exist prior to them making them up right then and there.
And you watch, it's like just the pure baby rage that's going to come across the airwaves as soon as a single indictment is handed down.
It's already happening with the judge that attacked that ICE worker in New Jersey. Full closed fist punched this guy. She's getting indicted on it. Or the judge that helped the guy escape the courtroom.
Yep.
You know, they're actually going to prosecute both those people, the legislator and the judge, who both were helping in those situations and attacking cops. They're getting indicted and they're freaking out about it. They're like, you broke the law. You remember the phrase "no one's above the law"?
Right.
Oh, does that only apply to one side of the aisle? That doesn't make any sense. This person,
no one parentheses Republican support in parentheses. Yeah.
So, and that's something that is going. We're just going to have to weather that. We're just going to have to go. We don't care. Like we're abiding by the law. Fight us in court. And
let's be very dangerously clear about something. And I'll speak for me, but not us. If the radicalized regime of the right were sending stormtroopers into the absolute heartbeat of America and rounding up people and persecuting them for political hits, I would be the first to stand in opposition to my own favorite party and say, this is fucked. And I wouldn't stand for that. This is a place of liberty, and there's countless reasons on why we want to keep it that way. Agnostic of how I may or may not land on how we sign a law. I don't feel this is that, no matter how much screeching and screaming we're going to hear on the airwaves. And that's just my take. Like, you'd be happy to call me a radicalized right-wing weirdo, as most of you do. This is horseshit, and we have a precedent. So when you say stuff like, this is unprecedented, eat your words. There's plenty of fucking precedent for this, dating back to 2022. Go back and read the news stories, the ones that you guys all rejoiced on when it looked like Big Bad Orange was going to go to jail forever and ever because he's big and he's bad and he's orange. So trust me,
there's a whole bunch of J6ers who spent 3 to 4 years in prison without ever seeing a courtroom, without ever being charged with anything.
Right. If people go to jail, I'm going to say justice was served where I feel that it was, but I'm not going to victory lap the idea that, oh my God, this is just political assassination left and right on the opposition because now the Republicans fell backwards into power somehow on all 3 layers of infrastructure for our government. And so trust me, I want to be very honest about that because that's the way we will be painted among them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I would agree with you 100%. If the tables turned and, like you said, we sent stormtroopers into households who were just swooping up political opposition for just the sake of
following orders, whatever it may be,
I would be standing shoulder to shoulder with the people fighting that regime as well. That is absolutely authoritarian nonsense that I would not my principles are exactly where they're at. And I don't care what letter you have by the side of your name. If you're acting within that scope, you're not on my team and I will push back against you. That, like you said, that's not the case here. So
I don't think that it is. Like we would love to have some answers for all of these things. And, in to the case with the judge, particularly like someone who hands judgment of the law standing in defiance of it is putrid. One of the principal reasons I left Seattle and King County, and that jackass became the governor as soon as I left. Like,
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, this is a
Yeah.
guy that promoted and perpetuated the degradation of an entire constituency by not prosecuting crimes that were obvious, with, in some cases, dozens to hundreds of repeat offenses, and then walks right into the governor's mansion on that broad blue line over there. And it was disgusting because
Yeah.
that place is in shambles. It's a wasteland. I was just there. Like, anyway, I'm not gonna stand on a pulpit on the podcast all night, but like, just wanted to make it clear, if everyone thought like we're blindly, eating our sweet pie while we're watching the political opposition get terrorized by authoritarian governments, I would be the first to stand up and be like, I don't believe that this is accurate. I don't believe I stand for this, and fuck those guys.
Right. 100%.
Anyway.
Yeah. Seattle, you brought up Seattle there, and I have to refrain. I think I sent you a couple, but I have to refrain from sending you too many like Seattle looks like crap.
I follow them anyway. Like,
right, but just like any stories that I get, like I'm like, you know what? If we're not careful, the whole show is going to just be like, let's crap on Seattle, because we could do a whole show, but that's people don't want to hear that every week. So there were a couple of good ones this week.
Trying when it's just overt and I have to say something, I will. It's just but I try to take a deep breath on that area from time to time, where it's like, it is what it is, man. You're gone now. You said your piece, but it just keeps dropping nuggets of gold. And I just can't help myself sometimes. It's hard.
Seattle is an entire city of low-hanging fruit.
Very much. It's and it's somehow always harvest season. I don't know how that works. Must be the rain. But here's something interesting. No tax on tips.
Yep.
So if you work a job, and this I feel is life-changing to some states, including yours, where you have a state tax, you have a federal tax, and the aggregate tax bracket for you in the service industry includes your tips as part of your wage. And I used to bartend there, and I remember having $2 paychecks because they expect that your tips are part of your active wage on shifts you work. This is pretty big. Now you don't have to claim taxes on that income stream? Talk to me. What are you hearing out there?
Well, the Senate just passed the No Tax on Tip Act with a unanimous consent vote on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Just think about that. The Senate unanimously voted on something today. The standalone bill to the House of Representatives. The bill allows taxpayers to claim 100% deduction on tipped wages. The House is currently weighing the proposal in the larger Trump-backed Big Beautiful Budget reconciliation bill, for which some Republicans in both chambers have shown opposition. On Tuesday, President Trump delivered remarks to the House Republicans on Capitol Hill, where they reportedly asked lawmakers to stop haggling over the bill and move it forward to his desk. The legislation includes the expansion of the 2017 Trump tax cuts, no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, and no tax on overtime workers. If the bill passes, on top of all of these trade deals that we're doing, this country will hit a point that you better go out and buy stocks now. Let me tell you, this country will be like a rocket ship that goes straight up, Trump has said. But basically what this says is that you will no longer, or no business federally across the board will no longer be able to force you to put your count your tips as wages. Now, like, let's say the state of Idaho, where our minimum wage is still $7.25 an hour, right? Which is on the lowest end of the spectrum for most.
And I would still count that miraculous compared to what it was when I worked a minimum wage job in Idaho State so many years ago. But yeah.
Right. So it's obviously nowhere near a living wage. And a lot of those jobs, like you could argue, aren't supposed to be living wage jobs, and they're pretty remedial task jobs. But in like the restaurant business, they can actually count your tips and then reduce your hourly rate because of that to like between $2 and $4 an hour. And so now you get minimum wage, and then you don't have to count your tips.
Yeah.
That is tax free now, which
That sliding
really
wage
actually
has stuck a fucking thorn in my ass for so many years, where it's just devious. Like,
yeah.
like you hired me at this.
It's one
that
of the
was
things that I have a problem with in this area.
Right? Like that's the agreement I made when I signed this employee manual, even if it is a whatever task-based job. Like you can't, come on.
Yeah.
And so anyway.
So that being said, which is really funny because I have a lot of left-leaning friends in the restaurant industry here who are going to have to applaud Trump for helping them out, which is cracks a little joy in my heart, a little bit. So, but that being said, like even my daughter is a barista, and this is going to affect her. This is going to be helpful for her, you know. And it's the right thing to do. Like anything that we can take away from taxes is the right thing to do.
I agree.
But this is going to have such a heavy impact nationwide because of like even my job, I get tips. So now I don't have to count tips towards my income either. And I get pretty hefty tips. And so that's going to be a huge thing, even though it works a little differently for me. Like all my independent contractors, it'll help them out. I'm a business owner, so I kind of have to.
You carry the entirety of the overhead on.
Right.
Yeah,
so.
Right.
But that being said, it is going to profoundly impact the struggling single mother. It's going to profoundly impact the low income family that is trying to make their car payments and feed the kids at the same time. It's going to profoundly impact such a dramatic amount of people in this country, and I think it's a huge blessing. And if this gets stopped in any capacity before it gets signed into law, I would hope that this would incite some type of heavy pushback to the point of
you'd have to. It sounds like you'd have to thank Team Donkey for any bumps in that road if that's the exclusive measure that's put on the bill. I do want to point out a moment of clarification before I get asked about it after this airs on audio. I am a big fan of this as a step in the right direction for employment retention management and wage. I still think astronomically hiking the minimum wage, as some states have done, is a horrible idea.
Agreed.
Because, and there is a difference,
clear on that.
A very big difference, which I talked pretty radically about when this subject was approached last time, is you know, you move yourself to $20-25 an hour for a minimum wage job. That moves that hamburger to $37.50. And suddenly nobody's shopping at the store anymore, because who wants to spend $40 on a hamburger when $40 will buy you 6 weeks worth of hamburgers if you just make them yourself at home? You know what I mean? And now all the small businesses can't make it overhead. They're being taxed out the ass in certain areas, and they're being driven out in droves, like some places I just agreed not to point out and make fun of for a little while. That happened to a radical degree, particularly in the waning pandemic era. So there is a difference there.
Yes.
And I wanted to be very clear on that. Still not a massive fan of, you know, just jacking up minimum wage to unbelievable heights because it's destructive. And it sets a weird what's middle management precedent look like for salary gaps at that point too. Like it really reduces your ability to vertically move in your own company. Which is why I think
it was smart for him to tackle it this way rather than in the reverse. I think it was really smart. He actually championed this initiative during a rally in Vegas on January 20th, and he announced his plans to make good on that campaign promise, and the crowd went wild. He further teased the potential complete elimination of income tax for working class Americans. We'll see how far he gets with that. I'd love that, but we'll see how far he gets with that.
Will you make a covenant with me right now, live in front of the internet? I believe we should go live and have a tea party if they eliminate income tax for American citizens. If that actually
100%.
is successful, like we're not in Boston, either one of us.
I have a tricorn hat. Let's do this.
We should throw an impromptu pod over some tea, and we'll just talk about it.
I will be there.
Excellent.
With a puffy shirt on and some
corncob pipe, tricorn hat.
Yeah.
But
100%.
Teacups were there. Okay. Go on. Sorry about that.
Well, no, I pinky promise on that one. The GOP-led effort to save America's service workers would have been political suicide for Democrats to vote against.
I agree.
They knew it. Yeah, I think that they knew that they could not come out not looking like the bad guys if they voted against this, especially since they claim to be the party of the working class, which is an obvious fallacy, but that's how they've painted themselves. So to go so dramatically against the lowest of the working class, the people who need tips, who survive off of them, it would be a pretty bad look, and they knew it. So he cornered them into forcing them into doing this, and I love it. I love that strategy.
Brilliant political maneuvering as well, because what city in America is packed full of service industry workers? Way more than anywhere else.
Vegas, baby.
Las Vegas. So that's a
genius.
That's a great place to announce that during a rally right in front of a campaign. Right in front of the because that happened, I want to say week, maybe 2 weeks before the polls were open. So yeah. Also though, there was some stuff about a Golden Dome. Have you heard about this?
I have heard. I'm so curious because I have heard rumblings about this.
Yeah.
And I was like, at first I was like, that's a pie in the sky pipe dream. Like he's catering to a particular ear when he is talking about this, but apparently I undershot this.
Yeah.
And I don't really know much about it, but apparently it is within the realm of possibility. And it's based off of Israel's Iron Dome.
Yeah.
But on just a much grander scale because of landmass and technology. But do you have more on? I'd love to hear about
a lot
this,
more, and it's been around for a really long time, by the way. So
really,
so I'm gonna take this kind of paraphrase from NPR of all places. Ideally, the Golden Dome, for those of you that are new to this, it's
better use NPR before you can't, right?
Yeah, right. It's going to be capable of intercepting missiles. It's a missile defense system, even if they're launched from other sides of the world or if they're launched from space. And it will entail sea, air, land, and space coordination, meaning the same types of satellites that Elon Musk throws up there all the time for his Starlink network would then be used for missile defense. The budget is concerning. The project is pretty ambitious. He wants to have it done hopefully by the end of his term, which is ultra ambitious. And that's from a technological standpoint, which I'll get to. But it's $175 billion with a $25 billion construction start for next year. The vast network of satellites would have been really unthinkable a few years ago. But when you look at the Elon model, it seems like it's more and more within the realm of possibility. There's a few people that are really stoked on it. This is a quote from Tom Carrico. The overall Golden Dome effort is long overdue. He's the director of the Missile Defense Project at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. And then quotes later, this is a wicked hard problem to solve. And it's because of the limitations to technology based on the satellite feeds. It's also pretty easy to shoot out of the sky if you think about it. The issue is, we really need to go back in time. Space-based missile defense has been a dream of politicians forever. And in fact, a year before I was born, Ronald Reagan
era,
announced like intercept
Star
missile
Wars.
plans from the Soviet Union. At that point, said, "I know this is a quote from Ronald Reagan. I know this is a formidable task, one that may not be accomplished before the end of this century." He said at the time, "It'll take years, likely decades of effort on many, many fronts to achieve such a goal." So they've been talking about stuff like this forever, and it does seem, whether the technology has in fact arrived to this point is not ultimately clear to me, but it is very, very important. And I think it's kind of important in a bipartisan way too, other than they're going to stand on the money a lot. But one of the pieces I found interesting is an excerpt from NPR that says, "And the threats facing the U.S. are more diverse than ever. A recent report from the Defense Intelligence Agency showed that Golden Dome would also have to contend with new and emerging threats like cruise missiles, hypersonic missiles that can skim the edge of space, and weapons known as fractional orbital bombardment systems, which can launch, glide through a part of an orbit around the Earth, and attack from any direction." So we're at the point where science fiction is meeting reality to a degree with stuff like this, which I find disturbing that we're at that point as a species. I just do. I think that's kind of nuts. So we kind of are at the precipice of arguing in real time, like the need for such programs, agnostic of the cost, because there are weapon systems that are capable of unbelievable things at unimaginable altitudes at this point. And it's going to have some weaknesses, right? Like you can still shoot it out of the sky. You can cluster bomb certain areas that talk to it. It's going to be very difficult, but I don't know that the technology is there yet. I'm not an aerospace engineer, but I do have a better than average grasp on modern technology in aggregate because I work in it professionally. I study these things for fun. Great. But this has been talked about forever. And I think that's a piece that people probably don't know, is that even back in the early 80s, this type of discussion was being had in U.S. politics back then, and we're seemingly pretty close to having that done. Do I think it's possible by the end of Trump's term we'll have a functioning prototype for such a system? No, I don't. Do I think we're going to spend the money on it and carry it forward until somebody scraps it or finishes it? Looks that way. So that's the Golden Dome. That's what was announced and discussed recently, is a little like inside baseball on what it is and why. But I think it's worth noting that most politicians have wanted such a program for a very, very, very long time, like 40 plus years. So there you have it. That's my take on it. Where are you at with that, with the fire hose of information I just puked out from NPR?
Well, as far as the technology goes, I'm obviously, of the two of us, far, far less technologically inclined. When the idea of, when they were trying to, a couple of years ago, probably 8 years ago, and Aaron will vouch for this, and I might have talked to you about this, I was dramatically wrong with my prediction of drone capability. And when they started talking about like all of these different companies like Amazon and Walmart and all of these different large mega corporations delivering stuff via drones, I was like, that's just not going to be possible. Like the air traffic control that they would have to construct so that they don't just drop out of the sky, or people don't shoot them out of the sky, or that they don't get in the way of other helicopters and planes. The logistics alone just isn't possible. And
then everyone put an Alexa dot in their smart home.
Yeah. And then I actually was on record, and Aaron will laugh about this. I'll admit when I'm wrong. I said we will invent teleportation before they can get through the logistical nightmare that is drone delivery on a wide scale. And dramatically wrong. They're already there. They're dropping off. You can order lunch by drone at this point. So
Not so
like
fast. NASA announces teleportation pads under construction. I'm just kidding.
So as far as technology goes, yeah, the Star Wars program going back into the Reagan era, he made a big speech about that. That's pretty famous. And they did have some missile defense that was attached to the Star Wars program. But it wasn't anything like what we're looking at for the Golden Dome here. And
I mean, but
it works really well in Israel, but Israel's about the size of New Jersey. So like that's the scale I'm going. How are they going to do that? How are they going to put their arms around it with a big neural net, basically satellite net, and be able to do that on such a massive scale? But now I think you're right. I think we are tiptoeing over the edge of the technology right now, where the decades ago when they said it'll take decades, well, we're kind of there now. Now,
yeah, consider the
one
awesome
problem
power.
would be budget.
Exactly. Consider the awesome power of the technological innovation from then to now. When that was talked about, cellular networks were not even a twinkle in science's eyes at that point. Like
and now we have a living, breathing Jimmy Neutron grown up by way of Elon Musk. And like he's Jimmy Neutron just grown up. Like he's gonna do stuff and has done stuff that we're just like, we didn't think that was gonna be possible for another 30 years. And he's like, oh no, I'll do it tomorrow. Let me show you. And so we're dealing with not only the technology being where it needs to be, but also with an implementarian who actually has the capability of doing it, and a government willing to throw the money at it. So
yeah,
is it in the realm of possibility? Yeah, it's just going to take a lot of money and the right heads to do it, and pushing through the pushback to get it done.
Yeah, now to be clear, it's not an Elon spearheaded project, although it has all the familiar symptoms of somebody who's done satellite launches like this before, where I would imagine there's maybe one guy that would be very, very clear winner of bidding on this job to build and execute for the government, should there be a request for purchase for such a program.
Right.
Just going to put that out there. So we're not reporting that Elon's building a missile defense system. Two things on this. One, it scares me that we're at this point.
Yeah.
Like full stop. Two, I watched some Marvel movies. One of those included The Avengers Age of Ultron.
Real quick, this article that I'm reading actually says last month, Reuters reported that Elon Musk's SpaceX and two of its partners have emerged as frontrunners to build part of the missile defense system.
I mean, just taking a guess.
Yeah. So anyway, the Marvel movies. Sorry.
Yeah, Age of Ultron, this was the plot of, more or less, putting your arms around the world. And I believe also Tony Stark, now Victor Von Doom, I think that's going to be the plot of 2026's Avengers Doom, whatever it's called, Era of Doom or Fights Doom or whatever, with Victor Von Doom. So there's art and life imitating one another. But we're there. I hesitate to throw the connotations around with words like Skynet, but dude, like we're in new times. And it's
especially with the advancement of AI lately, like AI gets a hold of this thing and we are in a different world.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't care for that. And part of me wonders, man, if this is, you know, how when you're really up in arms about how old people are just rejecting technology just because they don't like change and this and that and the other thing. And now that you are that old person, you're that adult now, you're like, I don't like any of this shit. Like, is that me just being old and like putting my fist at the sky? Well, I do understand more than the average bear about how some of this technology works. And it is kind of terrifying that we have the capability to do that. Even marketed, oh God, where's he going with this, as a missile defense system?
Right. Yeah.
Because who knows what else it could do. So I'm just saying to say, I don't care for it. like that we're there. It has to happen because we're here and someone else will get there. And what the testing that Russia's been doing on high altitude to space level missile strikes is concerning enough to launch such a program.
And they're just one of many nuclear powers. We've got China, we've got Iran, not Iran. Who else?
Korea,
India,
India, Korea, China.
There's quite a few with nuclear capability, not to the level that we have it, obviously, and not to the for now, right? But they're doing testing, so
it's weird. I didn't, wasn't on my bingo card 10 years ago that I'd be talking about satellite driven missile defense systems and shit. To me, I'd be like, oh, when is that James Bond movie coming out?
Right? Like James Bond came to mind immediately.
Yeah, you're like, oh, GoldenEye's happening? Shit, yeah, I'll be there. MK Jansen, I'm in still. I'll have to delete that last part. You guys know I was kidding about that. She's still super hot. I don't care. I don't care if she's 90. She's still hot. So that's Golden Dome. But we got some pop culture stuff. We got some fun stuff. It's not all news. You saw a bunch of stuff, man. You finished Conclave. You also saw Death, Love, and Robots season 4. Awesome
Love,
title.
Death, and Robots. Yeah. Are you familiar with Love, Death, and Robots?
I've seen the card on Netflix and scrolled right by it because I assumed it was an anime.
It is, and it isn't. I am a big fan of any type of sci-fi anthology series. Sure. So, like, give me Black Mirror, give me the Philip K. Dick one, the Android one, give me any anthology series that is based around either science fiction or horror or something, and it's thematic. That being said, Love, Death, and Robots, this is its 4th season, and it's shorts. Like, you can watch an entire season in one night, and it's different stories based off of some type of technology, some type of robot, and almost all of it is animated. Some of it's funny, some of it's not. It's different types of animation styles, from claymation to full computer generated, like beautifully
so these are
rendered.
done by different production outfits and different directors.
It is.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And they're real fun. Like, the seasons are really, really fun. I've enjoyed every season. I get really excited when I see a new season pop up. It surprised me. I didn't think that I didn't know another one was coming out, and it popped up, and I was like, oh man. So I just digested it like within 2 nights. But you can do it in a night, because each episode, I think, is at most 15 minutes.
Okay.
And so, and they get some big names to do some voice acting on it and stuff. So it's actually pretty fun. Some of it's humorous, like I said, some of it's not. This season, out of the 4 seasons so far, the season had some highlights, but was also not my favorite season. It probably, out of the, I want to say, I think it has 10 episodes. Probably 6 of them are really, really fun, and then the other 4 were like, eh. But it was actually really good. I highly recommend it. A lot of them are just gorgeous. One of them was actually live action with some like famous Scottish and Australian actors from like Game of Thrones, and this really, or not Australian, he's New Zealand. He's from New Zealand, and he's like in any New Zealand show that's out, you'll recognize. I think his name's Rhys Davies or something like that. I can't remember, but he that one is live action except for the alien and some stuff that happens with the alien and like some explosions and stuff. But outside of that, like, it was live action, which was kind of surprising for this particular series. But overall, it just takes basically a pitch of a different story, different concept, and has fun with 10 to 15-minute glance into some type of futuristic situation, and it's really a showcase for the artwork and how each story is depicted very, very differently from each other. And I've enjoyed it. This season, as a whole, I would probably give this series like probably 8.5 megs to the end. This season, I'd probably just give probably 7.5 megs to the end. And the reason being is that this one just had a little less punch to it than I think the other seasons had. But overall, still really enjoyable. So, highly recommend that one. And then I teased last week, because we were talking about the Pope and what's been going on with him. He's actually kind of come out fairly strong in a conservative way in the last week since we've talked last.
For now.
For now. But so I decided to watch Conclave, because not being Catholic, but my mom growing up Catholic, you're Catholic. I know a lot of Catholics, but I didn't really ever explore the ceremonial practices of what goes on when a pope is transferred. Like a pope like the power transfers from one to the other, whether that be through death or through retirement.
It's a remarkable amount of pageantry, isn't there?
There is, yeah. And so now this movie stars Ralph Fiennes, and Ralph Fiennes plays basically Father Lawrence, and he is an administrator of sorts at the Vatican for the Pope. And it kind of circles around like contenders like we saw in real life, where John Lithgow plays Father Temblay, or they're all cardinals. And then Stanley Tucci plays Cardinal Bellini. Lucian Masmati plays Cardinal Adiyami from Africa. And then there's a handful of other ones, but those are kind of your main players. Isabella Rossellini is in it, playing head sister Agnes. So there's a really great cast. And it was gorgeous. It was, the mood and the tone and the pacing was really great. It definitely pulled you in to kind of the intrigue, because what's going on is Ralph Fiennes basically plays the facilitator of the entire organized system of picking a new pope. He was the one designated to do this. And he doesn't even want to really be there. Like, he wanted to retire and was not given that option before the Pope passed. And but there's some mystery and intrigue going on with a handful of the people. Now, this movie could not get more woke.
Yeah.
I hate to break it to everybody, but like, it was an indictment to anyone who has a conservative leaning within the Catholic Church. Yeah. Stanley Tucci is made to be the good guy, the self-sacrificing good guy who doesn't really want it, but all the progressives want him because he wants gays in the church. He wants women to be priests.
There's a lot of this through line in the two popes with Anthony Hopkins as well.
Yeah. So Lithgow plays somebody who nobody really likes, but or as far as the inner circle, and it turns out he might have some baggage that is being kept quiet, that they're trying to bring to the surface to make sure they don't elect the wrong person. But he's a contender. The African guy, Lucian Masmati, who of course becomes the butt of aggression from the Roman contender played by Jack and Coman, who plays Cardinal Wozniak. He is the right-wing guy who thinks that the Pope should only be a white guy from Rome.
Well,
so
when
he
you
really
conspicuously leave out Cardinal Richelieu from these stories, there needs to be a bad guy somewhere, right?
right, yeah. So Adiyama is the African guy. Well, he also has he's like middle of the road, kind of conservative. You know, the progressives don't want him either, but he's better than Wozniak. But he also has something that might keep him. And you go through the different votes, and then there's a whole bunch of unrest and bombings going on outside of the Vatican that they're being closed off from, as they are.
Yeah.
And it's Ralph Fiennes trying to navigate his way through this to find out who the proper person is. Now, he's definitely in Stanley Tucci's court as far as like being a progressive, but painted as a guy who just really wants to do the right thing, and he's trying very, very hard to do that. There's a mystery character who is no one really knows about, but he was invited by the Pope. He's a cardinal, and he becomes a major player within the story. It was fun with the intrigue. It was fun with the politics of it. It was fun with the costuming and the beauty of the film. And it wasn't a bad film. It was actually very well done. The ending was very controversial, intentionally, and I kind of just rolled my eyes at the ending because it was like, oh, but of course. They had to go.
I've rolled my eyes at
progressively
Catholic
hard.
decision making for my entire life. So
Right.
Yeah.
But this particular thing is shocking and the right thing, but shocking at the same time. Right. So it is very preachy, which is funny to say about a movie about the Pope and the Catholic Church. Right. So, but it's
expectations. Name of the film is Conclave. Yeah.
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and it's sending a message for sure. It's not just about how the process of picking a new pope works. It's definitely had an agenda of where the church should go according to said director. And which is Edward Berger, by just because I have not looked into anything else he's done, but I would imagine that it probably has similar tones.
Possibly, yes.
I would say that I enjoyed the film. I actually very much enjoyed it. I could overlook and disregard all of the progressive nonsense that they were obviously ham-fisting, heavy-handed pushing through this film.
It's Hollywood.
Yeah. But it was still pretty enjoyable regardless. So it's a slow burn, so it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
But I don't know, 6 megs.
6 megs.
Yeah.
Okay.
So obviously I would not recommend it to somebody who is prone to turning things off the minute they smell a progressive nature to a film.
Yeah.
You're not going to enjoy this movie if you're not willing to overlook or understand. But it's heavy-handed. But it is beautiful. It's gorgeous. And they did a really good job. And from what I understand, they did a really good job of being accurate with how the building looks, how the procedures were.
I've been there, so I'm definitely interested in checking it out now. I encourage, if you ever get a chance to go to the Vatican, to take that opportunity regardless.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. It's one of the most exciting parts of like my looking forward to going to Spain this fall is just the architecture alone is unbelievable.
Yeah, old world European architecture is something that cannot and will never be replicated.
Yeah.
It was in an era of its own and will always be.
Unless you're very good at Minecraft. Yeah, I watched a bunch of nonsense this last week. I watched a bunch of Marvel movies and stuff for no real reason. I did watch a Netflix film called To Catch a Killer, and it's got
I've been curious about that one.
Shailene Woodley in it. She did.
The Divergent films.
That's it. I was like some Hunger Games type of thing that wasn't Hunger Games.
Yeah, Hunger Games rip off. Yeah.
Yeah, so a pretty serious role. She has a few moments of real acting chops in there. She she like a vampire in a moment of self-defense bites a man's neck. It's incredible to see. I had to back it up because I wasn't expecting it and laughed. It's basically a bottom of the barrel patrol officer in the Baltimore PD, like beat cop, played by Shailene Woodley, who also struggles with addiction to drugs and stuff like that and has a checkered past or whatever. A killer happens. It's loosely based off a true story from 2022 about the belt. I think it's the Beltway sniper or something like that. Anyway, the FBI just kind of storms in and the movie just takes off like, hey, we're here to work with all of you to figure out who this killer is and catch him. Really good casting, very low budget, it felt like, but shot really well. There's good moments in it. It's marketed as a suspense thriller type of thing. I thought there were some suspenseful moments, but I didn't find it particularly thrilling. But fun watch. I'd give it 5 megs just on the nose. I would definitely give it a rewatch one day. It's not necessarily a popcorn thing, but pretty good stuff. It kind of came out of nowhere. I didn't really hear any hype or marketing for this movie. I just kind of saw it on Netflix and saw her face on it with a badge, and I was like, "That's cool. She's a cop. What's this all about?"
Does it kind of have that kind of dark, gritty feel like Seven did?
Not as bad, but
okay.
Like the tonal nature of it. One of the movies a year ago, maybe on this pod, I was praising and I was like, "You got to check it out. It's an old movie." That had Edward Norton in it, and it had
oh yeah, I watched that.
The Irish guy that I like a lot that plays the Penguin,
Colin
Farrell. And I was like, It's actually really cool to see like the inner workings, because they had a bunch of cops as consultants on that film, like for the New York sects of cops that do stuff on and off the clock. They tried to take themselves that serious at times in this movie, and so you can kind of feel they were really trying to drive the drama part of it. It is a darker film. Most of it does take place at night, like most of the scenes and the shots and stuff. But it wasn't like you could feel the fabric of darkness like a Seven or a Fight Club or something like that.
Right.
So take that for what it's worth. But it was good. I'd give her 5 megs right on the nose. For those watching, we rate the things that we watch and that we explore on megs as a rating scale. And it's from the movie The Meg. The Megalodon is how many megs we're giving it. And to the end means we're leaning toward a higher score. The tail end of the meg means we just barely made that score. So you can get half megs. We're not sophisticated enough to do quarter megs, but I'd give this one 5 megs on the meg scale. So it's pretty good. Yeah. Pretty average. So, what do you think, man? Gen Z Gospel?
Gen Z Gospel. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Gospel by Gen Z. We're doing it again.
I love it ending every episode with a little passage from the Word.
Yeah, the Word. Yeah, in modern society, all mixed into one. This is chapter 42. This is Lazarus. For those of you at home watching, we have another beautiful illustration. It's really, really nicely done. This is the Raising of Lazarus, painted in 1706 by Jean Jouvenet, I think. Here we go.
Sounds French.
It does.
Yeah.
Sounds very French. When Jesus was vibing with the chat, some real ones pulled up and said, "Ayo, come and clutch for our boy Lazarus." Jesus said, "Nah, it's not that serious." And they vibed for 3 to 5 business days. When they got there, it was too late for his boy Lazarus. Dead bro's sister Martha came to Jesus and said, "Bruh, why were you lacking? For you could have prevented this L if you were here." So Jesus told her, "Your brother will be unalived." And she said, "I know he will. He'll live his best life after this." But Jesus said, "I am the best life." And when they went to the tomb, Jesus wept. Bad moods. And he looked up and said, "Appreciate you, Divine G, for coming in clutch. I know that when I ask anything, you always say bet." And then Jesus said, "Lazarus, pull up." And Hades yeeted Lazarus so hard that he juba slid right out of the tomb, and all the people that watched were shook. That is literally what this says, by the way, for those of you listening. But I can't wait for next week. Sneak peek, it's Transfiguration, chapter 43. And man, we've only got just a few more. We got a few more episodes. I think there's 50 in here. So we're headed toward the final stretch, man.
Well, I
Gospel
think we've
by
got,
Gen Z.
which I'm very, very happy that we took this on and that we've been going through the Bible translated by kids that I don't understand normally, but
nor do I.
I'm getting an education in two different fields with this book. So I've actually very much enjoyed going through this. That being said, I think that it's going to leave a big hole in the show when we don't have this anymore.
Mhm.
But I think we've got a pretty good idea of what we're going to fill it with.
I think we do.
I think we'll leave that as a surprise, so that way when people
Like the Kool-Aid man, you're just gonna bust in. Ooh yeah, like at the end. And it's gonna be awesome.
But we knew that the show would be lacking once we got done, done with that it's a big component that people enjoy in the show. So we want to make sure we properly fill that void.
It's also hard to ask the internet for a light affair Proverbs book of silly natured quotes and or short stories for the purposes of broadcast, because it's like it has no idea how to take that query. But I think we got a pretty solid idea for volume 2 of what we're going to do with that. But more to come still yet from the Gospel by Gen Z. Other news, you're not coming down at the beginning of June. You're going to do it at the end of June. I have
that is correct.
Some light travel to do at the exact same time again, but it's only going to be for a day or two. And then hopefully, fingers crossed, hopefully I will be on vacation through mid-July, which will be absolutely exciting because we could do some really fun stuff while you're here and more. So I'm hoping that we can drum up some cool things for this pod as well as we go through it. Some more to come there, but I hope you guys are enjoying your pre-summer as it's May 20th. I know it's already hot down here, but I think that's it for me this week.
That's it for me too. Looking forward to the weather getting warmer up here.
Keep wearing shorts.
That's what I was going to say. I'm going to continue to wear shorts to try to force it. But yeah, that's it for us this week. I'm going to go upstairs and cook some steaks for the family. And yeah,
nice.
Thanks everybody.
Thank you all. Have an awesome night. We'll see you again soon.
Bye.